Our Climate Reality comes to you compliments Republic Bank, we're the one for you. Classic Lighting, Budget Marine Grenada, and Spicer Imaging Center.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Our Climate Reality. We are in our second season, and of course, this season our focus is a lot on mitigation and adaptation to climate change. This evening, we will be looking at support for responding to climate change. Of course, we hear a lot about the destruction, the damages, and so we must be prepared. We have to be able to respond. If not, we will have some problems on our hand. We have 3 very special guests with us this evening, and I won't be saying anything. A little later on, I will allow them to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do. All right? So we will be getting into a wonderful discussion this evening. We welcome our viewers of GBN Television 711, our listeners on K105 FM, and of course our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Also joining us, Mr. Jonathan Price. He's a forecaster at the Meteorological Services at Point Celine, and he will be sharing with us this evening this week in climate. So we got a lot in store for you. Climate change is one of the most complex issues facing us today. It involves many dimensions: science, economics, society, politics, and moral and ethical questions, and is a global problem felt on local scales that will be around for thousands of years. Carbon dioxide, the heat-trapping greenhouse gas that is the primary driver of recent global warming, lingers in the atmosphere for many thousands of years, and the planet, especially the ocean, takes a while to respond to warming. So even if we stopped emitting all greenhouse gases today, global warming and climate change will continue to affect future generations. In this way, humanity is committed to some level of climate change, and because we are already committed to some levels of climate change, responding to climate change involves a 2-pronged approach. 1, reducing emissions of and stabilizing the levels of heat-trapping greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, known as mitigation, and 2, adapting to the climate change already in the pipeline, adaptation. As indicated last week, this season, we will be looking at what is being done to respond to climate change. And tonight, we will be taking a look at an aspect of climate change response that takes place outside of the limelight, but is nevertheless very important. What we often hear about are the impacts of climate change and the damages that are caused. But what we don't hear about is what is involved in responding to climate change. The development and implementation of strategies to respond to climate change, and strengthening countries' abilities to track what is happening and the impacts of their programming on the ground. Tonight, we go behind the scenes to look at what is involved in developing the plans, implementing the strategies, and tracking the implementation of these plans. Our guests tonight, whose work focuses on these nitty-gritty details, are from the Regional Collaboration Center for the Caribbean, which is hosted by the Windward Islands Research and Education Foundation, located in St. George's University, and will share with us on their respective roles and how it helps Grenada and other regional countries in responding to climate change. We will take a short break, and when we return, This Week in Climate with Mr. Jonathan Price. Do stay with us.
Solar Vision Vision is the champion. We're lighting up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighting the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We going green to be healthy. Going green for security. Going green for prosperity. Going green with Solar Vision. We going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Montrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
Our environment is our responsibility. Budget Marine contributes by selling environmentally friendly products. For example, we sell lightweight open boats that require a relatively small engine. Best to combine with our Tohatsu 4-stroke engines. They use little fuel and have a low emission. Carib Marine solar panels are specially made to withstand the Caribbean climate. The panels are suitable for use at home and on the boat. The required chargers and converters are also available from Budget Marine. Keeping your car and boat clean extends the lifespan. But residues of the cleaning products disappear in nature. We at Budget Marine sell eco-friendly cleaning products from EcoWorks, not harmful to nature and also clean very well. Plastic junk in our oceans is a major problem. Fortunately, there are companies that clean up and reuse the plastic into usable products. Marlowe, manufacturer of lines and ropes, produces docking lines made out of plastic waste. Another company is Sperry Shoes. Sperry has a collection made from used fabrics and plastic waste. Just a few examples of how we at Budget Marine contribute to help protecting our environment. We care.
Welcome back. And of course, those of you just joining us, it's Our Climate Reality, Episode 2, Season 2. And we're looking this evening at support for responding to climate change. Our first feature this evening, This Week in Climate. And it is presented by Mr. Jonathan Price of the Med Office at the Morris Bishop International Airport. Mr. Price, good evening and welcome to Our Climate Reality.
Good evening to you and good evening to the viewers and the listeners. In terms of the rest of the week, we do expect a bit of a decrease in the temperature. We have an active tropical wave that is going to be traversing the island during the day tomorrow. Now, what does this mean in terms of the weather? Well, we can expect some cloudy conditions with light to moderate scattered showers, which can become heavy at times, and it can be a bit gusty during those heavy showers. And there is a possibility of isolated lightning and thunder as well. So just to add to that, we have issued a warning for a medium chance of flash flooding and landslides in areas so prone. So in terms of some of the impacts we can expect to see, we can see horizontal visibility reducing during moderate to heavy showers. So drivers do pay attention to that. We can expect some gusty winds in and around the heavier sets of showers, and we do expect the potential for lightning strikes. So again, public, students, and workers do take caution tomorrow, and this weather will continue into Friday. We, however, do expect some improvements on Friday evening and on Saturday as well, but we do still expect some cloudy conditions on Saturday with the odd shower. So once that tropical wave passes, we have some trailing moisture that will lead to those conditions on Saturday and Friday and Saturday. Sunday, we expect it to have some general improvements, some fairer conditions, and again, the sun may return, so it may get a bit hot. Not as hot as this week, but still in higher temperatures.
Mr. Price, as it relates to the heat waves we've been experiencing in the past weeks, can we expect some more of that in the coming weeks?
So we do expect the general downward trend of temperatures. Again, we are past the peak in terms of the maximum temperatures, but yes, it can still be a bit hot as the weeks come along. So do look out for those heat wave advisories. In fact, I believe on Sunday, we had a temperature down here recorded at 33.8 degrees Celsius, which is around the top 5 highest temperatures recorded here at the Morris Bishop International Airport. And then it was also 33 degrees on Tuesday as well. But it did cool down a bit after that. And again, we do expect it to be cooler for the rest of the week. But next week, earlier next week, we can expect some of that hotter temperatures to return.
Mm-hmm. I mean, looking further ahead, anything you can say to us as it relates to the weather and, of course, the impact that climate change is having?
In terms of the weather, well, looking further ahead, we can possibly pay attention to the fact we didn't get as much rainfall based on our previous climate data. So short season, we may need to pay attention in terms of the water usage. And again, we do expect the temperatures to cool down later in the year. But main concern right now would be in terms of the water storage going forward into next year.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Price. And of course, we look forward to having you on the program again in the future. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you for having me.
This week in climate, of course, that was presented by Mr. Jonathan Price of the Met Services at the Morris Bishop International Airport. It is time, folks, to get into our discussion for this week, support for responding to climate change. But just before we do that, we have not yet introduced our guests, and so it is now my pleasure to allow them to introduce themselves. And we will start with Myra. Can you tell us a little bit about you, what you do?
Sure, thank you, Godfrey. My name is Myra Santaella. I'm leading the Regional Collaboration Center for the Caribbean under the UN Climate Change. I've been working in the UN Climate Change for around 13 years now, and I have been part of the RCC here in Grenada since last year.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Martina, you're no stranger to the program. You've been here before. But those of us who missed it, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Thank you, Godfrey, and good evening, everyone. I am Martina Duncan. I am the expert for nationally determined contributions at the RCC Caribbean office. I've been there for the past 3 months now.
Okay, wonderful. And finally, of course, not the last, but Emma, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Thank you very much, Godfrey, and good evening to our viewers. I'm Boateng, and I'm the Senior Climate Change Specialist and Youth Expert at the RCC Caribbean. I've been working with the RCC since 2020.
Thank you very much. So, folks, it's time to get into our discussion this week, and we will start with Myra. So, Myra, can you start? I mean, to start this discussion, can you tell us a little bit about the RCC, that's the Regional Collaboration Center, what's the role and function, and how does it go about delivering on that role?
Perfect. Before that, I would like to really congratulate you and other involved for this program, and also thank you very much for the opportunity that the Regional Collaboration Center has today to share some of our work. I will ask for my presentation to be shared in the screen. So. Next slide. So this presentation is to give a little bit of the overview of what is the Regional Collaboration Center, what we're doing, and also the areas that we cover in terms of geography and work streams. So the RCCs, as we call, the Regional Collaboration Centers, we have 6 around the globe, and they are all part of the UN climate change. We have, as you can see in the map, we have the RC Bangkok, Dubai, Kampala, Nome, and we have one in Panama covering Latin America, and we have one specific for the Caribbean region located here in Grenada. Next slide, please. So zooming in now in the RCC Caribbean, it was established in 2013 in Grenada, and being a partnership between the UN Climate Change and WINDREF, the Windward Islands Research and Education Foundation, which is an NGO located in SGU. The RCC cover, such as the other RCCs as well, party and non-party stakeholder in terms of engagement. For the RCC Caribbean, our geographical scope covers 16 countries in the Caribbean, and we work with different work streams which are linked to the UN climate change processes, which I'm going to talk a little bit further. Next slide, please. So RCC Caribbean geographical coverage, as you can see, we engage with 14 CARICOM countries, but also 6 OECS member states. In terms of work streams, as we call, we have 5 main work streams. One is mitigation. Some examples of areas of mitigation is NDC, which Martina is going to be talking about, also carbon pricing, Article 6, and some work on innovation under the United Nations Global Innovation Hub, which you are part of a program to conduct interviews with countries to capture some innovation needs for these selected countries. Adaptation, support on national adaptation plan of countries. There has been some activities also relating climate and health. We have organized an event in the COP last year on that. We had Ashley Lashley Foundation also representing youth in that event. Transparency, support on the enhanced transparency framework with parties. When I say supporting, we're talking about organizing webinars, being part of conferences and workshops with countries and other organizations who support in this area. Means of implementation, meaning climate finance and technology, and also the work stream of sustainable development and participation, covering youth, which we have Amma here today, gender, and non-party stakeholder engagement, which also include the private sector. So in terms of support, it's very diverse, and including when you consider the different stakeholders we work with as well. So in terms of countries, we focus a lot on capacity building, and since our work is linked to the UN climate change work, we provide hands-on support to countries to understand process, also bearing the deadlines that they need to provide information for several processes. So we are very close to countries in the region and on that hands-on capacity building. And also regional collaboration with other organizations. This is also aiming to reduce the duplications that we have in the region when the organizations are providing support. We try, for instance, when we need to collect information from countries, is to join with other organizations to conduct surveys, for instance, so that reduce the time that is required from countries to respond to those. We also have communication and outreach, various channels, which I'm going to show right after. And that's it for this. You can switch for the other slide. This is just a few of the events and collaborations we have done this year. I'm not going to read through, but just to give some, dive in some of them. So, for instance, the Regional Need-Based Finance Project with OECS. It's a beautiful project involving the OECS countries, where the countries get together to discuss needs for financing. And this project is in different phases. We are, let's say, 3 phases, and the second phase happened this year, and it was a conference organized, a workshop organized in Grenada, where the country representatives, as we call national focal points from each country, OECS countries, join us here. So they discussed what are the country needs and try to get together in those needs as a regional project. So as an outcome of that, there has been developed 3 project ideas, and the aim now is to develop that further in order to reach out to potential funding opportunities. We also have collaborated a lot with the MRV Hub for years. MRV Hub providing technical and support on the transparency, which means reporting from countries to the UNFCCC processes. And this has happened in St. Lucia this year. We also collaborated in the Windruff Research Day. It's important for the RCC also to connect to the students of the university, so we provided some information on what we do. Also, Article 6 webinar series we provided this year, building knowledge to countries for the upcoming Latin America, Caribbean, and Climate Week, which is going to happen by the end of the month, which I would like to talk a little bit about it later, maybe. And the latest we have had a great achievement is to develop to deliver the simulation for an emission trading system in Dominican Republic. That happened last week, and it was very successful. So there are other activities also we did this year related to youth and NDC and LT LEDs, but I have 2 beautiful ladies on my side that are going to talk about it later. Next slide, please. RCC Caribbean communication. So we have different channels that we use to disseminate information. So we have the RCC brochure, which I included the QR code in this presentation. I hope the audience can scan it. And we do have a website where we share various information. Also, anyone can subscribe to our newsletter where we share information, what we are doing at the moment. This is every 2 months. We aim to conduct this every month shortly. Also report and publication, and we conduct interviews and conversations on climate action, articles and press releases. So this is the type of channels we use to disseminate the information in the RCC. Next slide, please. So this is my attempt to use some technology, and let's see if the audience is able to scan the QR code and get more information on the RCC brochure. Also, yeah, we have the website link there, and we are happy to have more people signing up for the newsletter and yeah, be part of this beautiful process of the Regional Collaboration Center.
Thank you very much, Myra. And of course, one of your work stream is focused on nationally determined contribution, the NDCs, and the long-term low-emission development strategies, the LT-LEDs. And of course, that is supported by the NDC LT-LEDs. The person leading that, the expert in that field, is Miss Martina Duncan. Martina, can you first, explain to our audience what is an NDC? And folks, this is not a political party. Just wanted to make that.
Thanks. Thank you, Godfrey. Okay, so the nationally determined contribution is basically, in simplest terms, the country's plans to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and or adapt to climate change. Right? So under the Paris Agreement, countries that are party to the Paris Agreement are required to develop these nationally determined contributions every 5 years, regardless of the implementation period. And most countries have submitted at least, I think all countries have submitted at least one. Grenada, for example, has submitted 2 NDCs. So far, and the next NDC cycle is in 2025, so countries are gearing up now to develop their new NDCs for the next period, and taking into consideration the national circumstances, as well as increasing opportunities to increase their greenhouse gas emission ambitions in the countries.
Right. You mentioned that the countries have to submit their NDC. Can you tell us what have we here in Grenada? What have we put forward as it relates to responding to climate change?
Okay, so Grenada's second NDC, which was submitted in 2020, is really mitigation focused. The plan is to reduce emissions by 40% of 2010 levels by the year 2030 from the sectors of the energy sector, transport sector, waste, forestry sector, as well as industrial sector. The estimated amount or cost of implementing the actions that were put forward is about $1 billion US. And the idea is, I believe the plan is to source these funds from international sources of finance.
Okay. And how do you plan to provide support for Grenada and other countries? Is it through the financing or other methods?
Okay. Well, at the RCC, we don't really provide finance to countries. We do provide some technical support for development and implementation of NDCs in terms of webinars, trainings, awareness raising on best practices that have been observed even from other countries, partnering also with or matchmaking with agencies that do fund the NDCs. So for instance, Myra mentioned the Latin America and Caribbean Climate Week that's coming up. So there are two important events at that Climate Week. One includes a partner event where we're bringing all support partners together to discuss how we can support countries going forward in terms of their, one, understanding or tracking the current NDCs, progress on the current NDCs, and two, plans for development of the NDCs in time for 2025. And the other event is looking at the countries and the actual implementation partners, the agencies or private sector agencies that really implement the work on the ground in the countries, bring them together with the national governments to understand and to see how the partnerships work and what everyone is doing. And we do have some examples, for instance, of linking the national determined contribution with the long-term low-emission development strategies, which looks at the country's longer-term goal for greenhouse gas emission reductions. And it's very important to have some linkages where those long-term strategies do exist anyway.
You mentioned supporting partners. Are we referring here to the other countries or organizations within the individual countries?
Okay, so the support partners, they're international agencies as well as national entities, mainly international partners. And it could be partners in terms of providing technical support as well as financial support. So like, well, the NDC partnership, which is one of the big agencies that work in the region or globally on NDCs, they are a key partner in that. That bringing the support partners together. Of course, not everyone doesn't work in every region or in every country, and usually it's a country-driven approach. So it's good to see who works in which countries and who works in which regions and what resources are available to be provided to countries, especially countries that are not or haven't advanced significantly in the NDC implementation. Many countries, for instance, have like NDC implementation plans and NDC financing plans. Some countries don't even have those as yet. So getting countries started and getting countries going, and those that are implementing, how do you track that progress, and also tracking the kind of support that is being received so far, so that you know that certain agency may be providing a lot of support to many countries and some agencies are not providing that much support. So just making those kinds of linkages.
Right. I do have some more questions, but I'll save them for a little later on, because we're just about to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Amma on her role. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Solar vision Vision is the champion. We're lighting up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighting the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We're going green to be healthy. We're going green for security. We're going green for prosperity. We're going green with Solar Vision. We're going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Monrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
Our environment is our responsibility. Budget Marine contributes by selling environmentally friendly products. For example, we sell lightweight open boats that require a relatively small engine. Best to combine with our Tohatsu 4-stroke engines. They use little fuel and have a low emission. Carib Marine solar panels are specially made to withstand the Caribbean climate. The panels are suitable for use at home and on the boat. The required chargers and converters are also available from Budget Marine. Keeping your car and boat clean extends the lifespan. But residues of the cleaning products disappear in nature. We at Budget Marine sell eco-friendly cleaning products from EcoWorks, not harmful to nature and also clean very well. Plastic junk in our oceans is a major problem. Fortunately, there are companies that clean up and reuse the plastic into usable products. Marlowe, manufacturer of lines and ropes, produces docking lines made out of plastic waste. Another company is Sperry Shoes. Sperry has a collection made from used fabrics and plastic waste. Just a few examples of how we at Budget Marine contribute to help protecting our environment. We care.
Welcome back, everyone. Our Climate Reality, providing the support for responding to climate change. Let's turn to Amma. She works with youth engagement, and of course, in the whole climate change discussion, we've heard of many young people around the world who've done quite a lot, as it relates to climate change awareness, and so on and so forth. Amma, can you tell us, explain to our audience how the RCC Caribbean supports youth engagement and climate action, and maybe some examples of that.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. We cannot talk about climate change without emphasizing the crucial role young people play in achieving ambitious climate action. And it is no different in the Caribbean when we talk about youth engagement. So it is very important to train young people in climate policy making and negotiations, which is why the RCC Caribbean has established what we call the Academy for Global Youth Leadership Empowerment, also known as the Agile Initiative, which is a platform that brings together young people in the region to connect and then empower them, train them, and also make sure that they understand every aspect of the climate change process and how they can meaningfully engage in it. So we, the RCC, and through the Agile Initiative, we have three main pillars that we work with, which is the Climate Leadership Academy. With this one, we equip young people with the skills that they need to effectively engage at the national level in putting up the climate change policies. We also have the knowledge sharing platform, which is an online tool where young people can have access to all the relevant information that they need to be able to learn and get themselves equipped in the engagement process. We also have the Green Business Incubator, which they are able to use that to identify some creative green business ideas and initiatives. And through this also they are able to connect with their peers in other islands and then also learn from these initiatives. So with that, the RCC has been convening a number of online events and then sharing knowledge on all of these priority areas that is needed for young people to be aware of. And we also work with other youth networks in the region, like the Caribbean Youth Environment Network, the Ashley Foundation, to empower and then share exchanges and then experiences in this aspect.
Well, quickly, have you been engaging young people here in Grenada, and what kind of responses have you been getting? Are they coming on board? Are they understanding, the serious nature of climate change, and are they prepared to, get involved and be part of the raising of the awareness?
Yes, it is very interesting to know that Grenada has this committee called the Youth for Emergency Action Committee, the YAC, which has also been organizing some of these educational programs on climate change and disaster risk reduction. Just recently in May, they had this workshop, and through this workshop, the RCC was a part of it, and we're able to advise them on how they can collaborate with other networks in the region, and not only in Grenada, but for them to offer a platform for everybody to come on board. It is also prudent for them to connect with other networks, so not to duplicate the efforts that is being done. So it is not only in Grenada, but they are working across in Trinidad and in other areas as well.
Okay, wonderful. Myra, I want to come back to you, with a follow-up question. Now, as the lead of the RCC Caribbean, what are some of the important upcoming activities which the RCC is involved, and what we can look forward to, and what would you say are the benefits to Grenada for hosting such a center? I did not know that we had this year.
Yeah, a center in Grenada. Yeah. So as I said, just going from the last question, one thing that I might have forgotten to express here is that the RCC has been here for many years, but the original plan of the RCC being here was to support countries on the clean development mechanism, which is a mostly mitigation work stream, and over the years we have spread that to other work streams. So this year we have been very busy building a team, because before this work was basically a one-person work, and now we have 4 to 5 people in the team. So that is a great news that we're developing this capacity within the RCC, and we can provide more support. Saying that, this month we have the Latin American and Caribbean Climate Week happening in Panama. This is the full week, last week of October. It's a great opportunity also for the audience, because many of those events, they are climate related, obviously, and they are available on, you can stream them. So there would be, plenty of topics being discussed during that week, and in preparation for COP as well, because a lot of this information is fed into the COP negotiations, and it's part of the work of the RCC, not part, but I would say that right now we are completely focused on delivering our work at the Climate Week in Panama. So we have various events that we are organizing. I mentioned before the capacity building in the Article 6. Martina has mentioned also the partners on the NDC support, and I'm also supporting you. So the entire team is going. We have also someone from innovation supporting the work there. We do have various Caribbean focus events happening in the Climate Week. So shortly we will have those published, and it will be great if people can watch them. So that is our upcoming activities. In terms of Grenada, I think we are here for many years, and I think it's important for us to be here for Grenada, because we have, logistically speaking, we are available for tomorrow. So I think many of the activities we have conducted in Grenada in support to the government, or also the activity in youth that AMA has participated, those were mainly because we are here. So we have, this program is an example that we have 3 people from my team here in this program today. So that is let's say, for the value added to Grenada, to have our team, and our support is available. And a lot of this information and the areas that I mentioned are in the website. So yeah, we are very happy to be here providing that support and hands-on with Grenada.
I want to go back to your first presentation, and you mentioned funding opportunities throughout that. Just talk a little bit about that. These funding opportunities. Just explain that to us, and how can we benefit from that? How do we take advantage of those opportunities?
Yes, sure. So that is specific for the need-based finance project that I was mentioning. So we do have some collaboration with funding organizations and banks, multilateral banks like IDB, but that specifically is the need-based finance project, which was a one-to-one country project before, and it turned to be a regional project. So what happened is, once the countries get together and find similar needs that can be stronger the voice there in that request. So that mechanism is using various funding organizations such as Adaptation Fund. We have GCF. So those are used as a channel to submit those project proposals. So what the RCC is doing together with the UN Climate Change is providing that opportunity and facilitating that communication between countries to share their needs and challenges, and see which projects can be submitted as a regional project to this funding opportunity. So that is one specific example of one element also that I think was important in this year in Grenada that we had. So the organizations, so Adaptation Fund representatives, they were also providing at that meeting information on the process. So sometimes some of those processes can be very complex. So it's important to have that hands-on capacity building for every step that it needs to be taken, what has to be considered when submitting those proposals, time-wise, and all those information is provided as a package of the NBF project. So this is just an example of how we link to financial institutions.
Opportunities. Right. Also, in terms of funding, if you and we know that we're talking here about support for response to climate change. Some of our economic sectors that can be impacted by climate change, for example, agriculture, health, tourism. Is there any funding available for sectors like that? Can these sectors do, let's say, a proposal presented to get funding so that they can help, prepare themselves, adapt, mitigate, whatever, as it relates to climate change?
Yes, for sure. Well, there are several institutions providing fundings in these areas, and I think one challenge is to know which are those institutions. So I mentioned a few of them, and that is one of the of what RCC do, is to provide that information and make that information available. Also explaining the process. So we are here, so the work of the RCC is to facilitate that process of allowing the countries to reach to that information and have a little bit of hands-on capacity building on how to conduct that process for the funding request. And yeah, this is one way of I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, definitely. Martina, I want to come back to you because we'll be opening our telephone lines in just a bit, and so callers, you can, if you have any questions, you can give us a call, and we will try to provide you with the answers that you seek. So just for information, the number is 440-1252. Martina, just before we go to our telephone lines, you mentioned earlier, technical support. This to me is very, very important because aside from funding, people must be able to have a good understanding of what needs to be done. I want you to go into a little more detail as it relates to the technical support and what we here in Grenada have gotten in terms of that kind of support.
Okay. Thank you. So in terms of technical support, we provide basically ideas because the NDC development is not a one-size-fits-all process. It's very, as I mentioned before, it's very nationally driven. Countries typically appoint a committee or a focal point for this process. And at the RCC, we can work along with the countries to provide the technical support in what things are typically included in an NDC. So, for instance, the greenhouse gas inventories, which look at the amount of greenhouse gas emissions per sector. We can support with that, as well as the plans, the mitigation and adaptation plans that are also presented in the NDCs. We can support with coming up with supporting guiding the process for identifying those plans as well, and of course in terms of the costing, in terms of the means of implementation for the NDCs as well. And we can also provide support in terms of the NDC implementation plans as well as NDC financing plans, provide guidance and so on, as well as I mentioned, as Myra also mentioned, matchmaking with other agencies that can provide more concrete support to the country as well. So we can bring in other support agencies that can give more focused support or have the sectoral expertise for the main NDC sectors as well. So those are some of the areas that we can provide support.
Right, thank you very much. So our telephone line is open, folks. The number is 440-1252. If you have any questions or you'd like to contribute to the program in any way, you can give us a call. We have 10 minutes allocated for that, so we have to make it very quick. Keep your questions short, your comments short, so we can, accommodate as much as we can. The number again, 440-1252. Those of you looking at your television, the number is up on the screen, so you can give us a call now. Again, 440-1252. That's the number you can call. While we wait on our calls, reduction of emissions was mentioned. Myra or Martina, what are our plans here in Grenada as it relates to reducing carbon emissions? Have we presented anything, that the public should know about so that we can start taking the necessary actions? I can recall some years ago, I know there was a move to stop bringing in vehicles that were older than 10 years in Grenada, because we know what happens to them and the carbon monoxide. But aside from that, anything else as it relates to reducing our emissions here in Grenada?
Yeah, thanks for bringing up that example. So I believe that I'm not sure I could be corrected if there was a concrete implementation plan for the NDC that has been finalized as yet. But as I mentioned, the main sectors that are being targeted are the energy sector, the transport sector, forestry sector, waste sector. There are, in all of the sectors, I know that there are activities that have been identified and are ongoing already, but I don't know if the process is fully comprehensive or fully under one umbrella. So even though the NDC has been presented, it's a case that sometimes that we know that activities are happening or ongoing to reduce emissions, but putting it together in one place that we can go and say, okay, these are all of the activities that are ongoing, and this is the impact it has in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions reduction process. I'm not fully sure if that is something that is completed or is ongoing in a very structured manner as yet. And I said I can become I can be corrected if I'm wrong, as we are not fully part of the the process.
Okay.
As you said, we're just building the team and trying getting involved in. So we had, like, for instance, we had our first meet and greet with the government officially a couple of weeks ago. So we're fitting in now, trying to fit in now with the countries into their processes. So we're still getting updated on the status of the countries in the region. And in fact, with that, we actually we sent out a survey just last week to all of the countries in the region where we can obtain information like that that you're asking. We are hoping to have all the feedback by the end of next week, or as much feedback as possible by the end of next week, so we can use that information to be able to understand how we can provide the support, what kind of support the countries need. So part of the survey is, one, on this asking where the countries are in the NDC implementation, in the LT-LED's development and implementation, and what type of support do countries need for implementation of the NDC, as well as development of the new NDC in the upcoming cycle.
Okay, wonderful. Do you work with the various sectors, for example, and I'm still here on the emission thing. Let's say, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture. We know, for example, and forestry as well, we know there are people in Grenada who continue to cut trees, and we know one of the big things with climate change and reducing that is to plant trees, not remove them. So are you working with sectors like agriculture, tourism, health, and so in the various areas to provide whatever support you can?
Yes, the plan is to work with the sectors as well to provide that technical expertise on the types of activities that can be done and how we can probably go about providing the support that's needed, whether it's awareness raising, whether it's capacity building, and really getting the message to as many people as possible. So everybody has a part to play. It's not just on the government. So we ideally would like to have the message spread as widely as possible across the population.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to come back to you. You are involved in youth. Are there any ongoing projects with our schools in terms of awareness and sensitizing our school children as it relates to climate change and the work that's been done?
Thank you very much for bringing that up. So we are in the second phase of the academy, which I said earlier. And in this second phase, we are looking forward to working with children and youth, because we have this constituency called the Yongo constituency, which focuses on children awareness as well. So in this second phase, the RCC will be taking active role in this aspect, where we'll be working with children on how to educate them and also train them in how they can also understand the impacts of climate change. So it's not going to be about young people alone, but children will be involved as well. And obviously it's going to start from Grenada because we are locally here.
I mean, there are still many people who probably don't take climate change serious. There are people who don't even believe there is something called climate change, and you hear it a lot. It's important. Most things, when you want change, you hear the conversation that we need to start in the schools. Whatever it is, we need to start in the schools. We hear that quite a lot. So I'm happy to know that this is part of your plan and to get children involved. Aside from that, an important role is to also engage parents because they have to provide support. Any plans there?
Parents are part of the wider population, so we don't only focus on school-going children, but we also have public awareness programs where we educate everybody involved. So when you talk about the stakeholders, we mean every single person, not only ministries, not only government, and not only school-going children, but every single individual amongst us is supposed to be educated, is supposed to be empowered on how they can also respond to climate change and natural disasters. So it includes everybody that is living with us.
Okay, wonderful. Myra, anything you would like to add? You probably don't realize it because we're almost out of time.
Yeah, no, it has been great. I loved the experience, and then we hope we can contribute and moving forward with the program in any other areas that we can collaborate. Yeah, it has been great.
Right, wonderful. Martina, back to you. We earlier in This Week in Climate, we heard from Mr. Price what we can expect as it relates to weather, and we know a lot of what we're seeing now, the changes in weather patterns, has a lot to do with our change in climate. Things like that. Your organization, any consideration along those lines in your plans and whatever you do?
Okay, so thanks for that question. As part of the capacity building and NDC development and not just NDC but also the long-term LT-LEDs, long-term development, the low-emission development strategy process is really understanding the situation in the countries. So the way climate change is impacting the society at the national level and at the sectoral level, that's an integral part of, because you need to know this to know how you can and should respond. So it's definitely on the cards to really do additional studies, conduct additional studies, and also really not just the studies, but also enhancing the data collection process for these studies to be really impactful. So that's.
And Myra, I know there's some targets that have been set as it relates to emission reductions, and so just remind us about the time period and what we anticipate may happen by the time we get there. Are we on track with the targets, or are we behind, or are we ahead? Are we making a lot of progress?
I think, thanks, Godfrey, and sorry about your previous question. I thought we are just ending the program. But happy to bring some of that perspective. We have different periods of time, and we call also the long-term strategy when we're talking about 2050. I think it's important for all the countries to think in the long term. All this information that we get, for instance, from NDC and progress on implementation is fed into the global stocktake process. So this year we have had until September, Martina, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the deadline for any updated NDC to be provided. So all this information is compiled, so it's important for the countries to be part of that and compiling the information so we know where we stand and where we need to go. So that is how the process works. We are not in a position to indicate exactly where we stand in that tracking. It's very complex, but that's why that mechanism exists. So I believe that a lot is going to come up at COP28 and also in the following year, and we are able to have a good idea of our next steps, where we need to rush.
Do we have the time though? I mean, is time on our side or not, as it relates to?
It depends on, I think, the level of ambition that we have. I think we really did. I think it is working. We are taking it serious, but I think we need to think it as an emergency, right? It is an emergency. I think that's the best word.
So we have to act now.
We have to act as it is an emergency and act now. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Well, we're out of time, and I really want to thank you all for accepting the invitation to be here on the program and to share this information. These are things people need to know as it relates to climate change. So I'm very, very grateful for you being on the program this evening. But just before we go, the three of you. What one thing, and I'm going to start with you. I'll start with Alma this time. I'm going to start with you. Yes. What one thing would you hope that our audience can take away from your presentation this evening?
I would encourage everybody to, in their own small way, find a way to adapt to climate change. It could be to saving your tap water. So it's not supposed to be a very big thing or a big technological thing to do, but find something small to also reduce climate change or reduce your carbon footprint.
Thank you very much. Myra, what one thing from your presentation you would hope or you would like our audience to take away with them tonight?
Yeah, I think it's highlighting the importance of information dissemination. So that's why I congratulated this program. And there are various channels that this information can be obtained. For people to be involved, when we're talking about youth, for instance, we are talking about the biggest impact of climate change is going to hit another generation. So it is important to have data and to have information accessible to people. So that is my message, is to make sure that we are informed.
Thank you very much. And Martina, what would you hope for our audience to take away from your presentation this evening?
The importance of the nationally determined contribution process and the long-term low-emission development strategy processes. Get involved. People should get involved in these processes. It should be everyone coming together collectively and saying, yeah, we can do, whether it's CSO, private sector, communities, children, youth, could come together and say, this is our plan to reduce emissions, and feel welcome in the process and making such a decision.
Thank you very much. Well, folks, that's all the time we have this evening. Again, special thanks to our guests for appearing on the program with us. Also, very special thanks to our entire production team here at the GBN. Also, Mr. Leon Charles, Dr. Spencer Thomas, and all the others who helped in making this program possible. We thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we invite you to join us again next Wednesday for another episode of Our Climate Reality. See you then. Have a good night.
Our Climate Reality is made possible by Republic Bank, we're the one for you, Classic Lighting, Budget Marine Grenada, and Spicer Imaging Center.
About the new Software bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer